Now we're going to get into our second module, and that module is on environment. We're really going to talk about how to create environments that help you to minister effectively. Again, this entire course that we're going to be talking through is not the end all be all with all the information that you can ever know about kids ministry, but it is everything that I know, and I want to communicate that to you because it can help you be very effective in your ministry as you minister to kids. So there are really four audiences that you are ministering to. The first audience is kids. You might know that one already. The second audience is parents. The third audience is the church leadership. And the fourth audience are the volunteers that are in your ministry. So each of these audiences have a specific message that you need to communicate to them on a weekly basis. And your environment will help them to do that. With kids, their message is fun. They want to have fun. When they come to church, you should create environments that allow kids to have fun. When they leave, if they remember nothing else, help them to remember that they had fun. That way, they connect that God is fun, that church is fun. It's a place that they want to go to, and that it's a wonderful experience every time that they go. So for kids, fun is it's definitely a priority. So for parents, there's a different message. The message you need to communicate to them is that you care. You care about their kids. And there's two ways you can do that. One is security, making sure that everything is secure and safe, that the environment is clean and presents itself well. The second way you can communicate that is by when parents interact with their kids are letting them know that they had a great time, so that you had things that were engaging to them and that they learned something. So having a clean environment, an organized environment is something that's going to help you communicate to parents very well. You really have two opportunities to communicate to parents. One at the beginning of service as they're dropping off their kids, and the second opportunity is when they're picking up their kids at the end of service. So you should be strategic to have well-planned, organized activities happening at those two times. Many churches make the mistake of letting kids just kind of have a free-for-all during those two times, and then they get into their program once the drop-off or the pickup period is not there. But really, you should be strategic to have things in place, structured activities, while parents are dropping off their kids, so that parents see that they're leaving their kids in the hands of capable people, especially when it comes to new people that are coming to your church. You don't want a new person coming to your church, dropping off their kids, and having a room full of kids running around and jumping and yelling and screaming. You want to control that environment as much as you can so that there are organized activities happening. Same thing when they're being picked up. There's actually one church that we came across where they invite the parents to come into the room and they actually say a blessing together as a family. It's kind of a neat way to let parents know what was done that day, and then instead of ending on just a here you go, you can leave now type of a note, they're ending on a very strategic blessing, which kind of sends everybody out with the same mindset. So be very strategic about those two times. The third audience is the leadership of the church. So this is the pastor of the church or any other key leadership. Their message is that growth is taking place. You need to communicate to those leaders that growth is happening in the ministry. So kids are being discipled. People are experiencing good things and coming back. They're eager to come back and bring their families to the church. So you need to present messages and stories to the key leadership of the church, letting them know that people are enjoying what's going on and that there's growth taking place, both spiritually and also numerically. There's growth taking place within the ministry. That's what key leadership is going to want to see, and that's what's going to communicate to them the loudest. The fourth audience is the volunteers that are in your ministry. So the message you need to communicate to them is structure. People need structure, and they need structure in order to feel like they've accomplished something. provide checklists for just about anything that you have people do in your ministry. When they can check off some boxes, they know they've accomplished something that day. Have things well organized, have all the supplies ready to go so that when they show up, they just need to step into the role that you have for them and start to minister to kids. They don't have to focus on being distracted because there's missing materials that they need. Have everything ready to go so that your volunteers are well equipped. There's a structure in place and that they can get a sense of accomplishment. That's really what's going to keep them coming back and digging deeper within your ministry so that they become more and more engaged and they want to help you in greater ways. They want to give more of themselves, more of their time, more of their energy towards helping things happen because they can get a sense of accomplishment when they serve in your ministry. So those four audiences are going to serve you well. If you can get those messages across to these people, then you're gonna be well on your way. And your environment helps you do that. The way you set up your environment is going to help you communicate these key messages to the people that you need to communicate them to. One of the biggest things that people want to see is that there's a structure and order in place. So the way you set up your classrooms is going to help them see that right off the bat. Without anybody saying anything to them, they can see for themselves that there's a plan in place for their kids. And when the kids come into an environment and there's a strategy and it's well designed, well put together, then they're going to open their hearts up to have a good time. They're not going to resist you as much, if anything, and they're going to be ready to have a great time in your ministry. So you have to be strategic. You have to pay attention to those little details and create graphics, different things that are going to be warm and inviting, is to show that you really care about these kids. So you're communicating these messages primarily to kids and parents with the way your room is set up. Now, especially if you're in a portable environment, like I said before in the first module, I have been part of a mega church doing kids ministry, and I've also been part of a church plant. In both cases, the rooms and the environments should communicate that you care and be appealing to the audience, to kids and to parents. Be done extremely well. So you're communicating messages to both those audiences. But in a portable environment, it's really important, I think, because you're transforming a hotel room, a theater, a school, into something that's different, into a church. So you have to create an environment that's unique, and you have to do it in a simple way. So you can set it up and tear it down every week, but it's still very important that you make the effort to do it. So one of the ways that I'm going to walk you through doing this is by laying out your room strategically. One of the things we like to do is to have a focal wall. So if we're taking a look at a room, and let's say the room is laid out just the typical size of a room, maybe a rectangle shape like this, well then you want to have a focal wall of some kind. So we like to put up a graphic, some sort of banner graphic, and it's not going to be right up against the wall or the back of the room. It's just going to float out in the middle and provide a background. In front of that's going to be your podium or any sort of like a teaching platform that you might want to use. You'd put that right in front of that graphic. And this is kind of part of a stage area. If you're able to block out a stage area, if you have a literal stage area, that's great. But if not, then you need to define kind of a stage area. So basically from this point on, that way, is off limits. That's the stage area. And then from this point forward, that's where the audience is. So you don't want people to be on stage. You want that to be kind of a protected zone so that you are able to set things up and not have it be bothered until you're ready for it. So we typically also like to have a screen of some kind in the stage area. So it might look like this, where you have a screen off to one side, or maybe it's right behind you in the middle. In our setup that we did in a portable environment, we had the screen over in this area with a projector that was in the back, and it projected forward onto the screen from the rear. So it was kind of a nice setup that gave us a lot more room out front to work with. The other thing you want to have is some sort of a backstage area. So this area is where you could put props, you could put puppet characters. It's where your drama team can hang out until they're ready to come up on stage. So this backstage area is kind of a hiding or a staging area for things that you might need. You might need a prop from back here, but you don't need it right off the bat. You might need it at just a certain point. So if it's something where you can walk back there, grab what you need, bring it out, present it to the kids, then that's the goal. Have it close by, and then have an area where things can be hidden, so that you're not having to reveal it before you're ready to reveal it. So with this setup, your audience is going to be out in this area. Maybe you have a couple sections of people where you can sit kids. Depending how big your group is, you might have one or two sections, and they would be kind of out in this area. So you're speaking and communicating to them from the stage area. So this is in a large group setting where you have a teacher up front, and then you have the kids that are paying attention to what's going on. So your room setup is critical to allow you to do ministry effectively. You have to be strategic about how you set things up so that you are able to do the ministry the way you want to do it. The other thing to pay attention to is safety and security. So ideally, you would have one entrance that allows people to come in, and then maybe another that allows people to go out. So in an ideal situation, there's only one way that people can come into a room and one way that people can exit out. That way you can prevent people, kids, from leaving if they haven't been cleared to leave. There's a way to prevent that. So in many ministries today, there's a checkout process where you have to turn in your tag or provide a number before a child is able to leave that room. It's a really good idea, and by controlling the flow of traffic, you're able to provide that security so that kids don't run out without you knowing it, or that the wrong person doesn't pick up a child that's not supposed to have that child. So safety is a big concern. We want to be able to have small groups. Small groups take the lesson, and it allows it to be more interactive. It's a wonderful way for kids to be able to interact with what they have just learned. So your environment should be strategic to allow for small groups to take place. So if these are large groups, let's say you have two large group areas where kids are either sitting on the floor or sitting in chairs, they might look something like this. But then if you are being strategic, you can begin to identify some zones, some areas where you can break out some small group sections so that you can have multiple small groups that are age appropriate. So maybe there's one up here and another one up here. So you have like 5 different small groups that are taking place in this room potentially. So this allows for first graders to hang out together, and second graders, third graders, different things like that. Or you can group them together. Maybe it's third and fourth graders are together. Depending on the size of your ministry, you can have many small groups. The idea is that these groups are about 12 or so in size. A little less, a little more is fine. And then you're able to interact with the kids on a more one-on-one basis. So you have a leader, one leader per group, and then you have multiple kids, and you're able to have that leader interact with the kids. So they hear the message, they hear the stuff coming from up front, from the stage, from the large group time, and then what they're able to do is discuss what that means to them, ask questions, and the small group leaders are equipped to provide them with guidance on understanding further what's being taught. There might be a craft, something that is more tangible so the kids can learn in a different way. And when you have a small group time, you're allowed to teach in different ways that kids can begin to understand and also interact with each other. That's another big bonus about small group time, is that kids can begin to form relationships with each other and with their small group leader. So small groups require you to have a great leader in place. You got to have somebody that is responsible, that is engaging with kids, and you have to train them up in different things they are supposed to do and different things they're not supposed to do, so that they are well equipped. And you want many small group leaders so that you are able to have many small groups and you're able to develop people within the ministry. These small group leaders are the people who eventually become teachers up front. Once you get a feel for how they are interacting with the kids, you can then make decisions to promote them, so to speak, to more upfront positions. So small groups are a powerful tool in a lot of different ways. Small groups are always good to also engage in competitions. Competitions are a lot of fun. They help the kids to engage with what's going on. So you can have competitions between groups. You can have a couple groups get together and maybe they're a team. There's just a bunch of different ways to do things. So small groups are a huge part of setting up a room, and the large group setting is also important so that you are able to minister on both levels and provide the information from two different angles. So the backdrop area is where we want to provide a graphic of some kind, right back in here. So we'll have maybe a banner, a large graphic banner printed. That's it might be something that's there for a long time, or it might be something that changes out from time to time. But the graphic banner helps to create a focal wall in the room. So this is where the focus is. When somebody enters this room, there's no doubt like where the front of the room is, and there's no doubt where the teacher's going to be when they teach. It just helps to orient people and get them ready to go and know where to go in the room. The other thing that we want to have is some sort of sound area. So maybe an area towards the back of the room where there's a area for sound and for video. So you need to have a place, usually in the back, where people aren't going to be distracted, especially with kids, where you can have your soundboard and your computer, which then controls the projector up front and the microphones if you have that in the room, and the music that you're going to play. So music is a large part of the environment. It's how we control a lot of the energy in the room. So whenever it's a game going on, it needs to be high energy, and you want the kids to be engaged. You want to make sure that there's a lively, upbeat music that's being played, so that the kids get that feel, and then they get excited in that moment. Or if there's a time where it's a prayer time and you need it to be kind of somber and quiet, you can have music playing that allows the kids to know that. It kind of cues them in on, hey, this is a quiet time. It's not a time to be loud. It's a time to be reflective. So music is a big part of things. You want to make sure that your sound and audio are well set up. You want to use visuals on that screen, and so you want to make sure that your audio and your sound people are well positioned to see the screen and to hear the sound, and to help the teacher from at the front of the room to help them and aid them with sound and visuals. Now, we've talked about an ideal situation where you're able to have two doorways to your room, and you're able to have an entry doorway and an exit doorway. Sometimes you can't find that, but I guess one of the tips that I have is, as you're looking for spaces for your kids' ministry, for your church, if it's a portable environment especially, then try to find a space that allows, especially your elementary ministry, to have these two exits, these two different options. So when we were looking for an environment, we found a hotel conference room that allowed for two entrances where we can have an exit and an entrance. And at some point in about a year into things, we had to move to a school. Actually, we were searching for different environments, and we found a school and chose to go with the school because the setup was better for our kids' areas. So we had a gymnasium that we actually used for our setup, and in that situation, we ended up dividing the gym in half, and then we had the two entrances like we talked about here in our diagram, but like beyond this was the half court line here, and then back this way was the rest of the gym, and we just used all this stuff here as a divider to divide that gym in half. It was a very large room. We used a sound system to help us to communicate well, and that actually made that large room seem a little bit smaller by these dividing elements, and then also by using a sound system. But we chose the gymnasium because it gave us these two entrances so that we can have the enter and exit for security purposes. Your opportunity to minister to parents is when they drop off their kids and when they pick up their kids. If you're being very intentional about security, parents are going to know that. So we want to communicate to parents, especially new parents, that we care and that we are thinking about their kids and providing this security feature. The other thing is that you're communicating with parents when they drop off. So basically, the parents are going to come into this door, drop off their kids. They're going to get a glimpse of what's going on within the room. So you want to make sure things look great. Put up that big graphic banner up front. Have some graphics on the side if you can that communicate vision or just communicates a sense of design and intentionality. So do anything you can so you can minister to parents before they leave. They're going to be in there for maybe less than a minute, but they're going to look around and they're going to make a decision on your ministry based on what they can see in that very short amount of time. Also, what they can hear. You should have some good music going on in the background. When they walk into this space and they're here looking around, they should see organized activities happening with their kids, a well organized room that's clean, and then they're gonna leave, and that's the impression that you have. And then when they drop off, when they come back to pick up their kids, they're gonna come into this room, and the flow of traffic is gonna make them go around like this and then exit out the other side. So as they're making that loop, that's your other opportunity at the end of the service to minister to them. So from the stage, you can be letting them know things as they're making that round, that circle to exit out and pick up their child. Typically, in this type of a setup, we have the kids wait either in their small groups or in their large groups if we have chairs, and then they come to meet their parents and then exit out. So they don't get up until the parent is actually in the room, and then they exit out. So we want to, especially with larger groups, a lot of times we'll have kids wait in their small groups and then come to meet their parents from the small groups. That way we can have leaders with the kids pretty much the entire time, just to reduce any surprises, any child leaving the room without us knowing about it. So be strategic. These are times that are not just throwaway times. They're times to minister to the parents when they drop off their kids and when they pick up their kids. So my goal is to help you to be intentional about your environment and the way you set it up for elementary ministry. There's some principles and some elements that I've shared with you that help to communicate a message in a very sticky way that stays with people, with kids. That small group, large group setup, the focal wall, the different things we talked about, having security in place that will help your environment to allow your ministry to thrive and to be excellent. I hope you gained a lot out of this module, and I'll see you in the next one.